style, defense that came from the Ravens tree, and you would say look at it and it's very complicated to a large degree. When I say complicated, it's complex, which is the same, I guess, but there's rhyme and reason to it. I mean, it's not just chaos. Obviously, you can't play as good as defense as they play without it being very detailed, organized, and their players are very sure what they're doing, and they've got really good players. So all those are really good ingredients to have an outstanding defense like they do, and we'll have to put our best foot forward, have a great week of prep to show our guys what they're going to see, some of the unique challenges that they're going to face on Saturday, and then to be able to put our best foot forward, we're going to have to really we're going to have to grow. We're going to have to use the disappointment and the pain from the last couple of weeks to propel us forward when it comes to Saturday.
You kind of talked about teams being able to see a lot of film. When you kind of adjust to your scheme and what you've shown as a coordinator, what's your process for, I guess, countering that or reacting to that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't me, saying that we didn't move the ball the other day at times because, we were just, we didn't have any answers, or that we didn't have. It's just this time of year, right? I mean, it's just you got a lot of validation on either side of the ball and who they want to be, and they're going to, just like the other day, some of the success we had was because they were trying to take away some of the strengths that we had, and we countered with, a different scheme that helped us be successful. So it's a two-way street in that regard, but I think always during the course, our identity has been pretty established on what we wanted to be and who we try to be, and what's helped us this year. And so then you're always looking for ways to enhance that, this time of year, a scheme, a wrinkle, a formation, a shift, a motion, just something that can help maybe shift the eyes of the defense or the coordinator to not focus on, this is the same formation that they've done this out of and expect this. So we're very conscientious of that this time of year.
You talked about the count in the man box. You seem like a big zone decision-making by Tommy DeVito, and he seems like he's made good decisions all year. So what's the key to improving that, I guess?
Yeah, he's really made a lot of good decisions for us. I mean, inevitably, we talked about that. I mean, that's how college football is across most everybody that's playing, is your quarterback's making a lot of decisions, not just on the passing game, but in the run, and made some phenomenal decisions the other day when we pulled the ball and threw some of the post throws down the field, and had two really nice ones of those, and just the consistency, just doing it on every play. And because sometimes if you miss one, it can it can bog us down. You can get behind the chains if we miss one, and that just happened a handful of times the other day. And but nonetheless, we got to be spot on those opportunities. Like he's been a very high percentage decision making through the course of the year. I mean, in an incredible way, and just has really helped us in that regard. In a very strong manner, and so, but yeah, we got to be better in that regard and more consistent, and so it's not overly complicated from that standpoint. It's just you add a motion or a shift here, and sometimes they can give a different look, and they're disguising things too. I mean, the defense is disguising their inserts a little bit last week, and so, but the consistency there is really important.
Ryan kind of emerge as a down the field type threat there. We saw Pat do that earlier in the season to some degree. What does that allow for you offensively as a play caller to have those options to put one deep to complement what Chase?
Yeah, it was important for me to last week to push the ball down the field a little bit, and Brian got us off to a great start, made a great contested catch, and that's one of the things our guys have done that when they've had opportunities to make plays. A lot of good things have happened. And it's got something that we got to continue to, give opportunities to foster us, chunk yardage plays and those types of things. That's the name of the game. I mean, you're going to get a loaded box, and you're going to get isolated coverage. You got to be able to test those waters and be able to convert when you put them down the field. And I thought Brian did a really nice job of that the other day.
All good. Thank you guys.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys.
To me, it's like what you said. The offensive line,
That was quick for Barry, huh?
Just overall, how would you evaluate performance against Purdue?
It was up and down. I thought we fought through a couple adverse moments there early. And then weren't able to answer, much like a week ago, not able to answer the bell in opportune times to play complementary football. I thought Purdue did a good job of making competitive plays. In some of those scenarios, where we've made those type of one-on-one matchup plays. We weren't able to make on Saturday, and they were. So you got to give them credit. Thought they came in with a good plan. And then I was still proud of our guys for obviously we got hit with the injury bug pretty significantly, and pretty early in that game. So we had to move some guys around that don't typically play the positions they were playing most of the game. And those guys were able to execute. We didn't have to scrap the game plan or drastically change schematically what we were planning on doing going into the game. Obviously, you tweak some things here and there, but those guys were able to go execute and made some plays, and the plays that they didn't make, they were they're still competitive plays, and that's all you can ask for as a coach, man, is guys to be mentally prepared going in. And to go compete, sometimes you're gonna make those plays, sometimes you're not, and I think with having a week of practicing at those positions and gaining some experience, throughout the course of the week to clean up some technique things, and they're looking forward to the challenge this week, and they'll be ready to go.
Brett didn't sound after the game too optimistic, I guess, about Taz moving forward, and obviously we know Terrell was. What does that look like? I mean, like Quan has versatility. We talked a lot about that. What does that look like preparing for Michigan if you guys are down a couple of your guys there?
Yeah, I mean, it would look like it looked on Saturday. Like you said, Quan's got some background there. I thought he did a good job during the game and felt comfortable after the game out there. We played Xavier Scott out there as well, and he made some plays. Again, like the plays that he didn't make, he was right there. So that, that's a true freshman going out there battling in a big game, and he gained a lot of experience and grew up a little bit. It was obviously hurting after the game, but that's just the kind of competitor he is, and the kind of standard we set for ourselves in that locker room. And so they're looking forward to the challenge, like I said, this week, and they showed up yesterday ready to go to work and really study the film and what happened, and the good and the bad, and what we can do to improve, and then it's flushing it and moving on to a big challenge and playing Michigan in the Big House.
One call on Devin was a tough call on this side. What do you guys talk with him about after?
Just to continue to play his style of defense. That's one thing about Spoon. Like he's never shook. He got those two calls, and he's been pretty stout and pretty detailed in his technique all season. And was throughout the course of that game. That I think when it gets adverse for him and it gets high pressure for him, it only heightens his awareness on detail and technique and competition. So he played lights out throughout the entirety of the game, played physical throughout the entirety of the game, and didn't switch up his technique or his aggressiveness as a result of those two calls. So. He's a vet. He's a pro. He's just fine.
Penalties as a whole were higher Saturday than they've been all year. So how do you strike the balance between being mindful of that, but also maybe not losing that edge that your guys have played with?
Yeah, the penalties that kill you are the non-competitive penalties, right? The pre-snap or post-snap penalties. Like the late hit out of bounds, like that was crucial. That was a crucial moment in the game, and those things can't happen, and so we got to look at ourselves in the mirror and own up to those, and we have. It's been discussed, and those type of penalties you can't allow, can't have, because they come back to bite you, and I think all but one of the drives all but one of the scoring drives in the game Saturday, were had penalties as a result, of extending drives. So that's something we got to clean up for sure. You still want to maintain, like you said, being aggressive and playing your style of ball, but you got to be smart and when you're doing so. And like I said, the pre and post snap penalties are the ones you got to avoid.
Michigan seems to especially dominate in the second half on the ground. How do you approach that strong of an offensive attack, but particularly a rushing attack?
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at the stats today, and I think maybe it was Iowa held them to their season low at like 160-something yards on the ground, and we all know what type of defense they play, and it's because they got a really good scheme, and they got really good players. I mean, I think they're number 3 or 4 in the country for a reason. They're up front, they're big, they're physical, they play really, really well together. Very athletic. They do a good job of mixing in zone and gap schemes to both 3 and 4 down fronts. They use their personnel very creatively. Especially out of 12 personnel, they give you a bunch of different pictures, different surface areas, and the running back is as talented as there is in college football. I think both of them, obviously Crum and number 7, man, those guys do a good job of being patient and waiting for their blocks to develop. Offensive line does a good job of climbing to the second level and getting their hands on linebackers and DBs. And then if there's a guy in the hole that's unaccounted for, those backs are talented enough to make you miss. And if you miss, they're fast enough to take it a distance. So I got to do a great job of team football and pursuing to the rock and playing physical and being gap sound and assignment sound, which we've done for the better part of this season. So, like I said, our guys are looking forward to the challenge and looking forward to getting on the practice field to get our preparation started.
McCarthy's a young quarterback, but very talented, obviously. What challenges does he provide?
Very athletic. He can extend plays with his legs. They will use him at times in the run game. Not a feature there, obviously, because they got really talented backs and a really, really good offensive line. He throws a nice tight spiral, easy catchable ball. He's accurate, and they do a good job of asking him to do things within the framework of what he's comfortable with right now. Doesn't mean he won't stretch you vertically, because he will. They'll take advantage of some of their play action game and advantageous spots, on the field and depending on down the distance. But he's a good quarterback. He's really good. He's talented. I know he's young, but doesn't really put the ball in jeopardy. Doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Manages the game very well.
Is there anything you need from the defensive line that was happening during the winning streak that hasn't in the last couple of weeks?
No, I mean, I think they played well on Saturday. We weren't as gap sound the prior week, and some of those mistakes were corrected. Like I said, on Saturday, they just got to continue to be who they are and prepare the way they prepare. I've never questioned, our want to, our physicality, or our desire to prepare the right way. We just got to go out and execute at a consistent basis. There were stretches in that game where it looked like it has for the better part of the season, and then there were stretches where we made some mistakes, and that's football. You got to live and learn and grow from it. One thing I do appreciate about this game, that I think is the biggest correlation with just life in general, is like you are guaranteed to hit adversity, right? And what I love about adversity is it introduces yourself to yourself. You find out what you're made of, and in a team setting, you find out what your locker room is made of, and who you can lean on. And we got a bunch of guys that are leaning on each other right now, that have not had their confidence shaken or wavered, and are hungry to go out and continue to compete. This is a competitive game, and the ball is not always going to go your way. The ebbs and flows in the game aren't always going to go your way, and it's how you respond to it. And I like the way our guys have responded thus far.
Ryan, on the J.J. McCarthy deal, like 2 interceptions this year, it doesn't seem like they ask him to put the ball in high turnover areas. Are you guys kind of looking for the first maybe crack at Michigan in the sense of, you just talked about adversity, and is there a feel that maybe they haven't seen it yet throughout this year?
I don't know if they haven't. I'm not in the locker room, right? Obviously, you look at the scores in the games, and they've done a really good job this season. I just think we just have to go play our game. We are unique to this. Our style of play defensively is unique to this conference. Really, it's unique to college football, and our good players got to be good players on Saturday, and luckily we got a lot of them. And we got a lot of them at every different level. Guys just got to do their job at a consistent basis and go put the ball down, go play, and have fun while we're doing so. And, consistently doing it together for 4 quarters. We can't just have stretches where we're really good or plays where we're really good. It's got to be, every play's got to have its own lifespan, and you got to hit the reset button as soon as that whistle's blown and the ball is snapped.
Offenses have a lot to do with it. What do you think has changed? Maybe you guys were doing it for 4 quarters for that 6-game streak. Is there anything you can pinpoint as to what maybe has led to some more in-game inconsistencies and putting it all together?
I think it's a combination of a bunch of different things. There's a lot of things that have happened. Whether it's different guys being thrust into the lineup, whether it's momentum swings within the course of a game. Opponents making competitive plays, like I said, and it is hard to maintain that level of play throughout the entirety of the season when you have a bunch of different circumstances that you can't control. What we can control though is our effort, our mental makeup, and being assignment sound. And I think when we do those things, we are still the same defense that we've been all season. You see that doesn't matter who's in the lineup. If you do those things, then you're capable of playing at that elite level. And so that's what I'm looking forward to going out there on Saturday and doing just that.
Your defense that when Seth's not in there, that you just feel like you can't do, or is there an Alec Bryant or somebody else down the line that you feel like you?
No, I'm confident. Yeah, I'm confident in everybody we got in the locker room and in everybody that is on the field. Whatever 11 is out there, I got full confidence in them being able to perform and do the things that we're asking them to do from a schematic standpoint. And like I said, they're most of the time those things happen and. We were able to do that, and sometimes they made plays, and that's the nature of the game. It's the nature of competitive sports, period. And as long as you're giving your best effort and preparing the right way and putting your best foot forward and playing it the right way, then you live with the results. Like I said, it's the mental errors, pre and post snap penalties, the unforced errors that we have to eliminate and eradicate completely. We're at a point where we got to play clean and we got to play assignment sound and we got to play fast and physical to give us an opportunity to win games.
Have you been in that building before or not? Have you been in Michigan State?
I have not. No, I have not. Yeah.
What have you heard about that atmosphere and what it's like?
I've heard it's one of the. If you're a football fan, right, that's one of the more historic venues in college football, and that adds to the excitement about wanting to go play.
One of the things you can only know after it happens, but did you have a feeling like you could maybe weather those injuries hitting much more frequently than they had all year and only have to make a few tweaks? And did you anticipate that could be something you could do?
We because of how thin we had just got from a week ago after the Michigan State game, we did practice some guys in some different spots just in case, and the just in case happened. So we got a good staff. Coach B is one of the best in the business at foreshadowing and making sure you got all your bases covered. It's always what if or what could happen. Are you prepared for that? And because of the way our program is structured, we were able to get some guys some reps at some spots that they don't typically play in the just-in-case scenarios. And, I'll be damned if the just-in-case didn't happen and happened early. So I was happy that we were able to do that.
Apologies, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Barry signed a contract extension. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, I love this place. I really do. This place has been awesome to me and my family. I think that you can have sustained success here. I think that the leadership here is second to none. I think the alignment with the athletic director and the head coach is exactly what you need in order to have a successful program, athletically, and their vision is the same. And I think when you have alignment, that's what allows you to have success. It's in one of the best conferences in all of sports, in an area where you can recruit and you have fertile recruiting grounds all around you. And I love those guys in the locker room. So, obviously all those things, point to wanting to be here long term. So that's what I'll say about that. Yeah. Appreciate it. Good?
Yeah, thanks.
All right. That's a good question to ask you.
What's up, Josh?
Yes, obviously, the second week in a row kind of had to go face to fellows with a somber mood, right? But I do think they took the coaching very, very well. Our coaches as well. We had a pretty a good staff meeting on Sunday when we got a chance to watch and review all the film. Bottom line is we're a 7-3 football team that's lost 3 games. That were one-score games. We were able to win some of those close ones as well, but obviously the 3 that you lose are the ones that stand out in your mind. So we've made a lot of good progress around here in a lot of different areas, but for us to get to where we want to be, we got to pull through in those moments, to add another score, to prevent one score, to create something in a kicking game. There's a million different ways you can get to it, but I think the one thing that has really impressed me is our guys have been resilient, have been very coachable, have been into the moment and are eager to learn. So that presents us with this week's opportunity. From an injury standpoint, we'll, continue to gather more information during the course of the week. A guy last week that wasn't able to join us has already been cleared for practices and prohibiting anything going wrong. Seth Coleman will be with us, who's another really good player that has really progressed this year, has given us a lot of critical plays. I thought Gabe Ackus, in reality, stepped up in a big way on Saturday and continued to be very impressive. And Alec Bryant, to be quite honest, really showed up. There was one play that was a mental bust, but other than that, I was very impressed with Alec, another good player that we've got out of the transfer portal that's helping us in a big way. So, but Josh McCray, Chase Brown, both those guys are trending in the right direction. Very positive and excited, but don't know where we'll be by Friday for the trip and Saturday for the game. It will allow us to, continue to rep some of the guys. I thought Reggie Love's continued to pop in and do some good things. Chase Hayden has been waiting for his opportunity. Jordan Anderson, we've been on the verge of playing a couple different times. So those guys in particular, the running back position, and Pat Bryant and T. Strain are both guys that are in concussion protocol. And as they move themselves through it, I don't have an answer to where they'll be on Saturday, but they're definitely progressing in the right direction. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Where does that leave Taz?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Taz. Incredibly tough young man. He actually had a pretty significant injury. He dislocated his wrist and played a couple more plays after it was dislocated, which is absolutely amazing. But that shows he just did not want to come out of that game. Came over and actually, right before we were taking the defensive field, JB in the doctor's camp and said, "Hey, we're taking Taz up for X-rays," and I literally just said, "Well, why is it just now?" Because it kind of happened a little bit, while the offensive series was driving down the field, and he's like, "Well, he just came to us. Taz was trying to get his." He thought he was trying to come up with a way that he could go back in there, right? But then he finally went over to JB, and it's a dislocated wrist, so he literally had surgery on Saturday during the course of the game. Met with the docs always on Sundays, and I give a lot of credit to our medical staff. They called a doctor out of the stands that was here to actually go over and perform the surgery on Saturday afternoon, and then he'll actually, if everything progresses correctly, he'll have a second wave of surgery here. So it's you're looking at a timetable of probably 4 to 6 months for recovery for him. So unfortunately, Taz is out for the year, and unfortunately at the same position as T Strain, we also lost Rello. Rello, as you saw last week, came out for the final game recognition. A guy that came in like literally 3 or 4 days before camp started, played a significant role for us in the win over the first game of the year because we didn't have another. Taz was injured in that game, so we had him pop in that game, and then I believe Taz got injured the 10th play of the Iowa game, and Rello played the rest of that game, played extremely well. So another portal transfer guy that has been a game changer for us, has really done a nice job, and to lose him, we lost him literally on the last play of the half in the Michigan State game, in the game before that, because he wasn't obviously able to go against Michigan State. So just a couple guys at that key position, that's what really kind of gets a program like we're doing, trying to build this thing up. You can withstand an injury like we had, through that 6-game run. We had a couple injuries in every game, but that guy came in and played well. And in his case, it was a situation where the guy that had come in and played well, Rello, he got injured, which brought T Strain in the game. T Strain had a pick. He's doing well. Then he gets concussed. So now you're down to your 5th or 6th corner. And I thought, to be quite honest, I thought the guys that stepped into that role did a really nice job. We actually put Quan out there at corner as well. So guys doing a lot of different things to help us win.
But did you say Seth is good to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Seth Coleman, he passed his test, I believe it was last Thursday, but by concussion protocol, he couldn't play in the game.
What's that mean for you guys to get him back?
Seth, as you guys know, is not a man of many words, but he's a man of great action. I would say this year what really has surprised me about Seth is just his diligence and his preparation. I thought he took a big step. And even last year when or this summer when Gabe Backus and Jared Beatty, they talked about how well Seth and Zeke kind of adopted them and took them under their wing and showed them what they were doing at the outside linebacker room. In the out of season, there's a lot of chance to get better with players helping players, and those guys did a great job with those young guys.
But you talked a lot about adversity, dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you face in Michigan with a bunch of guys hurt. Tell me, is that adversity? Is that what you're kind of talking about?
I get it. From the outside world, yes. From the inside our building, it's the next opportunity, right? I just can't stress enough that that's how we kind of look at things. That's how we talk about it. To get a chance to go play Michigan at Michigan, there's literally nobody on our roster that played through normal means. So the only 2 guys that played at Michigan so far on our roster is Art Sitkowski, who played when he was at Rutgers, and obviously Chase, who played while he was at Western Michigan. So nobody on our current roster. I even thought Palcho and Marquez would father time into that slot, but neither of them. I told them yesterday, I've been able to experience a win as a player and a coach in Michigan Stadium, and what that meant and how it felt. And I think that's something that our guys are excited for the opportunity ahead of us.
Road venues have gotten bigger and maybe louder. You guys have responded. What's been key for good road play this year?
I did bring them back to a year ago. There's a lot of guys on our team that played at Penn State. It's similar in nature, 110,000 or whatever the number ends up being on Saturday. It'll be a cooler environment. So the fact that we played in that last week, I think, is a positive thing. We'll play in it and practice in it this week. Our guys kind of embrace, the moment to go into somebody else's place and live in that moment. I pointed out to them, we have a 74-man travel roster that'll match their 74-man hotel roster. We play on the same field. We share the same tunnel, as I'm sure everybody has heard, right? So we have a lot of the same things. It's just about who lines up and plays well on Saturday.
You talked about player development, but when you look at like a Tyler Strain and a Xavier Scott, is there any other better way for them to learn than what happened to them on Saturday?
I think especially at that position, you really, I give Aaron Henry, I've been with Aaron for a long time, man. I've seen him as a player, as a coach, the skill set he coaches, the way he delivers. Obviously, Ryan has a big factor in that as a play caller as well. But, Xavier Scott was a guy that we ran out of scholarships. I knew I wanted him. I was hoping no one else was going to scholarship him on signing date. We got him the blue shirt and come here without a scholarship until the first day of classes. And I give our personnel department, personal relationships. We got Xavier really because of relationships. And T Strain was a guy that we inherited here. He's really been on a pretty awesome journey since he's been here, and the way he played, to see that pick come his way. Even the week before, I know, there's a play against Michigan State where it was a learning moment for him, kind of like Xavier had that learning moment on Saturday. But the only way you go through those is to learn from them. What we're building and what we're doing here has been a 10-game progress in so many different ways. To be an October football team qualified for a bowl game, to be a team that's being talked about for a divisional title, to have the number of guys that we've had get injured down to probably the last 5, 6, 7 games and play as well as we have. As a head coach, I'm disappointed in the results, but I'm not disappointed in where we're at, and that's a key thing. It's paying off for us in recruiting. I think there's going to be a lot of really positive things to the finish of this season to jump into next year.
I remember, you said you had talked with your team about the tunnel at Michigan Stadium after the Michigan State game. Just have you done that again, especially after Saturday's game got a little back and forth with Purdue?
We were just warming up in our end zone. I don't think that was I've been here for 2 years. You guys have been here for longer than I have. I've never seen that happen. It was just two teams warming up in the same area, but it's a great point and a great segue. I do know that today, Mark Torsani, so my chief of staff, Mark Torsani, came from Michigan. He'd been with Jim 3 years prior to coming here. So Mark is very well versed in the operations there at Michigan. I really don't foresee any problems. I know they put some things in play. I know Josh has had conversations. I just really hadn't concerned myself with those because I don't think anybody wants a head coach worrying about tunnel management. But I think our guys will know the protocol. It sounds like Big Ten has put in place some really good things to try to ensure those things don't happen, and we'll live in the moment and handle that day as it happens, but I really don't foresee it being a problem.
You had talked about just being upfront with your team about what's on the table. You said like Sunday meetings, you were showing the world around them. Now without your destiny in your hands, there's a lot of scenarios it would take.
Right.
Do you just kind of pass by that, or do you still go through what it would take to get there?
No, it's kind of been a work in progress, since I would say, we played in week 0. There wasn't a lot to talk about in that game, but coming out of the Indiana game was the first time I put the Big Ten standings up because we lost the only one we played in, right? And talked about the importance of divisional play, where it's at. Obviously, as we continue to win, we put it up every week. And this past Sunday, I put it up again and just showed them where we're at and said there's a million different scenarios, like you said, could play out. But the only scenario that's important for us is to go to Michigan. Just like last week, we concentrated on the opportunity to play Purdue at home here. Obviously, there was a divisional title directly in the wings of it. We talked about, obviously, what we're going to do offensively, defensive, special teams. We talked about the officials we're going to face. We talked about the environment we're going to play in. All those things were a factor in the game, but none of it was talking about the Big Ten West title. It was talking about, taking advantage to beat Purdue and playing for a cannon and all that goes into that.
You got 3 wins as a coach against Michigan. And I just realized that one at Iowa.
Blair, yep.
So that's 4 wins, a lot more than, like you said, anybody else in the team and in the program's history. What would that mean for you guys to go up there and pull it off another upset?
Well, I think a win would be critical just because of where we are in our division, to where we are in jockeying and putting ourselves for postseason play. To play Michigan and to beat them at Michigan, obviously, I think a lot of people talk about it, but for me, I don't see it as any different. Nothing disrespectful. It's a great atmosphere. I told them literally, if you love college football, which is why you're in this room, you're going to love Saturday, right? Get ready to be in one of the greatest home game environments to start the game. They're going to be all excited. One of the greatest things you can do is have the power to control your own destiny and play the way you need to play. So there's a lot of great venues in this conference. In my office, I have on one wall is Indy in the middle, surrounded by every stadium that we play in. Because in recruiting, I talk about that, right? Like if we're recruiting a kid to Michigan, I'll say, hey, listen, come here, play for me, and I'll take you there twice, 2 or 3 times, right? I'll pay for the plane ticket. I'll give you dinner and let you play football with my uniform, right? And I use the other team's stadiums as a selling point. I know Iowa as good as anybody. I know Wisconsin as good as anybody. I've been able to have success, I think, in everybody's stadium. We actually won when I was a coordinator against Ohio State. There's a lot of great venues that if you play in this conference, that's a byproduct of those results.
You guys point to Penn State last year, the experience there?
100%, yeah, for the guys that lived it. And then, on our team right now, we travel with 74 guys to every game, right? And of those 74 guys, you probably have a group of 15 to 20 guys that get it, right, that do it. They've played big-time football. They've won in big-time environments now, right? They understand the value in the personal matchups. Then you have this next layer of guys that are kind of, looking around and saying, hey, like, I can do this, but I haven't done it yet, right? And then you got kind of those freshmen that now they're 10 games into it. So Gabe Akis, right? Like, he should understand what it means now. He's just a kid that continually aims to please, so coachable, and to get those three different kind of groups to play together as one is a challenge. Like, last 2 weeks we've had disappointment, but I'll tell you, like last week, Julian Pearl and Isaiah Adams on that left side play as good at football as they've played together all year, right? Zy Chrysler did some good things, so Luke Ford 2 weeks ago in the loss to Michigan State might have played his most complete game since I've been here. You have guys at times popping up and doing good things. We just haven't learned how to put it all together, and we're going to keep striving for that moment. It's a lot of fun to coach these guys. That's why, Saturday I was as low gets. But Sunday, being around those guys brings you back a little bit. Even today in the building and meeting with some guys and being around my staff, you just feel that energy come back into you and know that you want to go take advantage.
Are you hopeful with Chase? Obviously, everybody saw what happened to him Saturday. Are you hopeful he can get back here?
I hope just for Chase, right? Chase is, he's captivated a special season. I think the things that I've learned about Chase have gone beyond even the expectations that I thought he was going to be able to do the perimeter blocks downfield. He had a pass pro on Saturday against, in my opinion, a very good pass rusher, a guy that I think will probably be able to possibly play on Sundays or get an opportunity to play. And he was in a one-on-one inside-out pass rush, and his pass pro was incredible. And I remember specifically having some scouts early on in the season say, hey, his pass pro, well, he's beginning to answer that box, right? And for what I've witnessed out of Chase and for what I've witnessed some of my running backs in the past go play in the NFL for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, he's as good as anyone that I've ever had and has a chance to be one of the best I've ever coached.
Continually talked about reminding your guys about the kind of crew you're going to get on a week-to-week basis, but is it realistic for you guys to dial back any aggressiveness if you're going to see a tight crew? Because it seems like the way you guys play and the success you have is part of the aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we coach the same every game. We had that crew for Indiana, which obviously brought about certain emotions, but we also had them for Wisconsin, right? And one we won, one we lost. What I got concerned about was just the overwhelming number skewed against us, right? So that's conversations I have with the Big Ten office, plays that I turn in, results that I'll get back. One of the greatest people in our conference is Bill Carollo, the head of our officials. Just incredibly gifted ref in his day, and he manages people very, very well. That was a look at a championship weekend, right? And I thought they put in their mind, I'm sure, a crew that was going to be able to live in that moment and handle it. I think we can all get better after Saturday's film. That's a good point for all of us.
You don't want your corners thinking about, am I going to get a PI because of this crew or anything like that, correct?
No, I think what we talk about is, I would say certain crews are more reactive, right? That everybody's human nature. I always tell our players, man, they all got a name, right? Most of them probably are married. Most of them probably have kids. Most of them probably have friends, some more than others. That like their human nature, right? Even when I decide to go, like if I go after somebody, like I want it to have content, I want it to have value. I try to be human with them on the backside, but called 16 penalties against us. That's a large number. I got to know what I got to do better, right? That's what I'm charging them with. Is like if we're going to get called 16 times for violations in those moments, I have to do a better job. So I want to know from them what I have to do differently to know that how I can prevent those from happening.
Michigan obviously is solid in all aspects. How do you talk with your guys in building confidence as you show them the film and say, this is where we see vulnerabilities or whatever it is?
Yeah, offensively, I always think when you have three areas that you have to defend, it's a hard deal, right? So they obviously have an offensive line that is very good, very talented, big, long, athletic, move extremely well. Behind them is a running back that I think can be as good as anybody in the country. Strong, powerful, has the ability to run through you, has the ability to run around you, has some shiftiness to him. And on top of that, you have a play caller in the backfield, a quarterback that's being coached by an incredibly great player in his own right? I know Jim obviously touches the program in many ways, but he's a quarterback guy, and that quarterback plays at a high level. He's got an extreme live arm, and then they have 2 or 3 answers on the perimeter and a good tight end. So it's a very tall task to defend, but I think our guys are aware of it. They'll have to win their moments. I told our guys early on, right, I don't need anybody. I don't need any NFL all-pro player showing up for me on Saturday. I just need the best version of you, right? And that's the challenge this week for me as a head coach, for Ryan as a D coordinator, Barry's the O coordinator, Coach Snyder's our special teams coordinator. Just be the best you on Saturday, and we got a chance. Defensively, they got some edge players that are very, very unique. They have great versatility. I think their coaches use them very, very well. They have some good back-end players. They have a couple of dominant inside players. Their special teams are very accurate in what they do. Jim is a very good football coach. This is kind of cool for me to compete against him because I haven't had this opportunity, and have ultimate respect for him and Michigan and what they do. He's got a lot of good young coaches around him as well. That's fun to watch them have the interactions that they are. But just a really fun weekend to be involved with. I couldn't ask for anything I'd rather be doing than going to Michigan at 11 o'clock on Saturday. I know a lot of people would say that, but I sure as shit believe it.
When you have a situation with, say, an injury like Seth, and it's late in the season, you have the option of bringing his backup in. You have the option of, let's play Gabe and Alec Bryant at the same time. You have the option of, let's overhang a linebacker, let's change the scheme. How do you go about that process to be ready for that decision of an injured player and what you do?
Yeah, Robert, so twofold. I tell our coaches, basically when I hire them, I literally say, hey, there's a great coaching saying, right? That players believe that coaches play favorites, right? So I used to think the same thing when I was a player, but what I realized as a coach and then became a coordinator, and especially when I became a head coach, you play one guy, and that's the guy that gives the other 10 guys a chance to be successful. And when Zeke went down, that kind of thrust Seth into that role, and you saw it seamlessly take place, right? And then you saw Gabe kind of hop into Seth's role in what he was doing. And that doesn't happen by chance. That happens by Kevin Kane. That happens by Ryan Walters and a play caller. It happens by the development of our strength staff. And I don't think we were guessing what was going to happen. I think we just had to meticulate on how it was going to happen. And, at corner, sometimes those things have happened on top of us right now. And, Aaron Henry does not stutter. He just knows. I'll say, hey, on Friday we have this session called How We Want to Play the Game. So we have the starting lineups, and then I go through literally with the coaches in the room, okay, if this guy goes down, who is it? And Aaron has the quickest, fastest response of any coach I've ever been around, right? And every coach kind of knows that's how we're wired now. And, I think early on we probably played more freshmen. You track it. I know you do. I see your little tracker, right? Like we probably played more freshmen early on with the concept and the idea of I knew I was going to need them down the stretch. We had a pretty good idea after Gabe Backus flipped a tackling sled like 4 times in one day that he was a big, powerful guy, but we didn't know how he was going to handle moments. He's been incredible in in-game moments, right? Just really, as a matter of fact, a couple of games ago, he got a little spirited, and the ref came over and said, hey, you need to calm 17 down. And I'm like, I looked at Gabe, I'm like, bro, what you usually play within yourself? He goes, I know, I just got upset. I go, well, you can't, right? You got to control the game in your method. And to think that he's a true freshman, to think when every scout comes in and says, who's 17, right? Like, that's recruiting, that's development, and that's what we got to do more of.
So when you have a situation like cornerback where, okay, Taz goes down, and then Rilla was down, and then T-Strain goes out, how does that, you're past all the protocols of who you're going with next, then what do you do?
Yeah, well, I think you got to rely on what you see in practice. I don't know if it was game 3 or 4. I remember T-Strain made a couple plays. It was during our first bye week. He had a really good bye week preparation. And at that point, no one really knew T-Strain at that point. And that's when Aaron started playing him more and more with the twos. Xavier Scott, Ryan had been using him a lot as Quan's backup, and we kind of see him in that role. He's got corner skills but safety abilities. And they just started repping those guys a lot during our Devo work, which, in the end, obviously we wish we could have played better on Saturday, but it put us in a position to win a game. And the good news is sometimes young players have to go through a few things that we all have to suffer through, but I would bet on those guys 100 times over being better in the next moment.
I know we spent a lot of time talking about the kicking and punting game, but with the 1 year change here, special teams coordinator, what have you made of the return game and what you're getting out of that?
Yeah, well, the return game is a little bit based on, how you're getting the balls kicked to you, right? And it was experienced, in my view, they saw number one have some return abilities, right? So now they started doing some things with some directional kicks, doing some different things with, line up with multiple gunners because they want to get more people downfield. The element that we haven't really developed yet is just a pure good. We've rushed a punter a few times, but I think to complement a scheme that wants to take away the return game, you have to be able to bring pressure. Michigan had one block for a touchdown against Rutgers earlier this year. So, there's definite two sides of that. And then in the KOR game, obviously we started the season off as good as we possibly can. But the overriding factor is, statistically, the way the rules are working right now, any ball that's caught, inside the 3-yard line, to get it 25 yards without a penalty, the percentages of that are really, really skewed in favor of just taking that ball to 25. But we definitely, I think when you kick into the wind and we got a chance to hit a low runner, I think there's definitely some things we'll just continue to get better at. Thought Sean's handled the moment really well. Our kickers and punters this past Saturday played, something that gets lost in it. Last week, big hot topic was how our kickers are punters, right? They did fairly well, and then how are we going to do in the red area? You guys haven't brought that up. We were 4 for 4, right? So when you're building a program, these little things are what you got to work through. And believe me, I took notice of it, right? I know we didn't have the win, but I knew we made a nice step in 2 areas that we put a lot of emphasis in, and the product over time will be really, really good.
Would you entertain the idea of going over the 4-game threshold for McCray, or is that not part of the thinking process?
For McCray? Yeah, Josh and I had that conversation literally when it happened, 2 weeks after the initial injury, when they were talking about the projection dates. I said, Josh, if I'm correct in the way I evaluate you and think about you, if you return in a scenario where it stays under the 4-game limit, great. But if you only get to play in 5 or 6, it's money ahead, because I don't think you're going to be at a level that to stay 4 years of a full complete year beyond is going to be hopefully in his wheelhouse. I think he's a good enough player that however that thing plays out. Unfortunately for Josh, it's just really truly that game we finally played him in, he was feeling good, and then he got a horse collar routine and he got the ankle on the other side. So that's what I worry about, just his mental. It's kind of like build you up, get knocked back down. Nobody wants to get in that ball game more than Josh.
Good.